back. I'm Keith Barry.
I'm Maddie McCarty.
I'm Michael Crossan.
And we've got a very special episode of Talking Cars today. We are going to talk about why the heck so many cars feel like a phone and why so many cars need a phone. So this is sort of the role that software plays. Your car is a smartphone on wheels.
That's
right?
one way to look at it.
That's one way to look at it. Or your car is a screen that you bring your smartphone to, depending on which car you buy.
Yes.
So there's like two camps here. So there's kind of like the some automakers that are like, we're just going to have a screen, bring your own device, plug it in. And then there are the other ones who are like, leave your device in your pocket. This car is software defined, right?
Yeah. And it's typically a lot of the EVs that we're seeing where they want you to put your phone down and use their system as an experience, especially since it can be tied to a lot of EV features.
Yeah.
But yeah, then you definitely have others that it doesn't seem like they invest maybe so much into their infotainment system, so then you can just plug it in and use your own.
Honda. Yes, exactly. And we're also starting to see GM 2028, right? They're going to drop this. So I think anyone who's watching this is probably familiar with Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. You plug in or connect your phone, and all of a sudden those familiar apps and icons appear on your screen. That's Tesla never had it. Rivian, a few of the other EV manufacturers, like you said, kind of went their own direction. But now a major automaker, GM, is talking about getting rid of that too, right?
Yeah, and they've sort of made some moves to that as well. They just have a lot of native things. You can download apps. Like if you like Waze, you can download Waze to the vehicle, if that's your preferred navigation app of choice. So I think it just comes down to, I'd be actually curious of what everyone here thinks.
About which one in particular?
Like, do you want to live with native screen and native function and features, or do you want it all based on your phone? Because you're sort of our expert in this, and I know what I think, but I feel like I'm wrong.
And I know what I think, but I feel like I need to know more from you.
Oh, okay. I use both.
You use both?
Because I don't trust either completely. Because the native system is going to rely on an internal like Wi-Fi connectivity or cellular connectivity. And then your own phone is going to be either on Wi-Fi connected to the vehicle or a hotspot or a cell phone. But that just means that there's so many opportunities for the system to go wrong or to fail to load or to disconnect. And so for me, having both my phone plugged in and the native system map, like pre-mapped, then if one fails, I can just switch to the other.
Okay.
That's called being prepared. That is being prepared.
Being terrified of getting lost in the middle of nowhere with no service.
That is true. And we have a lot of that around here.
We do.
We have a lot of that. It might not be something that matters as much if your commute is on kind of main roads, but if you're in a dirt road in sort of the middle of nowhere, you with no cell service, you really want to know where you are.
There's like a patch that's like a mile down the road where every single time I come into work, if I'm like listening to something, it just drops out. For just like a quarter of a mile. And
that's one of the issues. So I know that cars nowadays, almost every car has, not every, but almost every car has a built-in connection. So this used to be for things like, they'd call it telematics. That would be like, you could look at your phone and unlock your car. You could see if the alarm went off. This is, OnStar. This is going back to the 90s that these connections would happen. So these built-in connections are now being used to do all kinds of things. You can fix a recall. It can get beamed down from the sky and fix the car. But we have trouble with that at the track, right? Because some of the cars, whatever carrier they use.
Correct. So there's certain carriers have dead zones here. And one of them actually was my own personal cell phone carrier when I started. And I actually switched carriers to the one that has the best coverage.
And your productivity went, no, I'm kidding.
Actually, I think it went up because we use our phones for so much. And I have my phone, and I have a phone here that's one of our CR phones because it is so important. And we're talking about like recalls and updates, and we talk about updates all the time. These cars just feed updates, and we're in the middle of testing them, so we need to check with everybody. So I'm always sending Maddie an email like, hey, can I update this car, or do you still need it? And how it is. But I just updated the key fob for the Lucid Gravity off of this phone. You connect them with Bluetooth, the phone download software puts it in the key fob, and the key fob actually works better after the update. It got rid of some of the quirks of it.
Oh, does it no longer go dead all the time?
I can't say 100%, but it's better.
Okay.
It recognizes as you get from a little more distance, the actual lock and unlock buttons seem to work okay.
Oh my!
I haven't had to shake the key. I've been driving it for a week. And there's still a bunch of updates to do on that car, which is why I'm just sort of living in it. But it's the first time we've done software updates off of phones. BMW and Mini had a system where you download it and then you have to pair the phone and drive around. I think, Maddie, I want you to put you in a car for like 4 days with this red phone so a car would do the update.
I don't even remember because it probably happened a few times.
Yeah, it was just like, here, drive it and hold this phone.
Yeah.
And make sure the phone's connected to the car and it'll download.
The GM cars update at my house. Yep. They don't update like anywhere else. In my house, they work.
So so we've kind of come to the fact of like, well, Keith, take this one home so this update will actually happen.
Yeah.
So it is a new world with these phones and everything like that.
Yeah, you don't think about key fobs needing to have a software download and update.
And it was very easy. It took 3 minutes, like all in. And I'm sort of adverse to some technologies, and that would be one of them, but it was very easy.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's a good thing, I think, for owners, because otherwise, especially a car like this Gravity, it's not the easiest thing to service. For us, you're either going down to New York or up to Boston. It's a process to do, but literally just at my desk, I didn't have to be with the car. Just put the two of them next to each other, and in 3 minutes, it was done.
That's nice, but then you also have to take a step back and think, why do I have to update my car so much?
Well, there's that.
Yeah.
And that's totally valid.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's something that we even kind of are starting to talk about in our reviews, that if there is kind of these two directions you can go when you're buying a car, you can be the sort of, the car is cell phone person, or you can be the person who chooses the car that maybe has connectivity for things like recalls. Like I would love that. If something can give me a software update that means I don't have to go to the dealership just for someone to plug a USB drive into the car and I have to sit there drinking crappy K-cup coffee, from a machine that hasn't been cleaned in 10 years. And there's, The Price is Right is on TV and someone's trying to sell me something. No, I'd rather just have that happen in my driveway. But this is where these things are sort of diverging. I want to hear a little more about what EVs, because I see, at least on social media and talking with people seem to conflate electric vehicle with too much technology that has nothing to do with electrification. And I think part of that is Tesla's fault, or not fault, but part of that is the association with, part of that is what EVs can do because they have so much power on board. But why are we starting to see these systems more in EVs than in a more basic vehicle?
A lot of it has to do with EV charging and how you plan as you are driving or planning a trip somewhere. How do you make sure that you have enough range to get to the next station? How long is it going to take for you to charge there? With the integration of the map system within the EV, now you have the maps has access to all of the EV data in your vehicle. So it's going to be the range, and it's going to be able to use that to calculate a whole trip from the East Coast to the West Coast.
And it'll put you at stops along the way.
It's going to tell you how long you have. Well, you can also, in some vehicles, you can decide how much range you want to have by the time you get to the next charging station. So if you're like me and you're a little bit more conservative, afraid of running out of battery, then
you get there and it's broken and you're like, oh no, there's nothing around. Yeah.
So you can set it to be, I want to be at this charging station with at least 50 miles of range left. And that's not something that you see in every vehicle, but it is something that I like to see and I like to choose if I'm going to take a road trip in an EV, because that's just my sense of peace of mind. You can also, do charge scheduling. So if you live in a state where charging or electricity costs increase during the daytime, you can have your vehicle charged between 2 a.m. and 7 a.m. every night.
You can have it heat up in the morning so it's nice and warm, things like that.
Yeah. So there's a lot that you can do, or where if you have a vehicle that's not quite integrated as well, like I believe was it the Solterra wasn't integrated very well. And so you would have it drive to some place that's 500 miles away, but the range is going to run out of less than 300. So that's literally impossible to do, but the maps is telling you to just go for it.
Yeah, and I think this is interesting. I mean, I think this is actually, and I'm a bit of a skeptic around certain things that are related to AI, but I think there's this world that I would love to be able to have a voice assistant that's built into the car where I can say, hey, find me a charging station with a decent coffee shop within walking distance that has an open place for me to charge, and it could take that real-time data, synthesize that, say, all right, here's a cool coffee shop, the kind of place that Tolly over there would go to, and I can charge the car. Now, I posted that on Blue Sky the other day, and someone responded, I can't even get it to open Spotify. So I think some of these promises aren't quite there yet.
I think they're really trying. There's a lot of like systems that are using LLMs, large language models, and they're getting there to be a lot more conversational. I think it's going to take a while before it gets to the point where it's like, I want this view and I want it to be right here and blah, blah, blah. It is going to take a while, but yeah, if you can't even log into your Spotify, how are you going to trust it to take you to the right EV station?
I was just in the Lexus ES EV and was trying to find a place to charge with a fast charger, and it would not show me, it would not narrow it down over voice control. I had to go in there but I mean, the system, if I had set it up, it would have figured it out for me, but on the fly, it couldn't figure it out. Something I wanted, because you're the one who everyone comes to when we have problems with our system. We bring you all our problems. Yes, which is why you have such a look on your face of
you deal with all of the things that we don't necessarily want to.
Yes, exactly.
They're hard.
By the way, I need to talk to you afterwards about. But anyhow, no. So you hear all the things that go wrong, whether it's plugging in a phone or whether it's a system, a native system, whether it's a bring your own device or this sort of walled garden. What are the things we're starting to see? Because I feel like things are getting worse. Am I dreaming?
I don't think they're better.
Okay.
I don't know if they're actually worse. They're different. I think first we should talk about, I mean, there's basically two phones. You have an Apple product or a non-Apple product, some type of an Android phone. And I happen to currently have an iPhone. This company phone is also an iPhone. So I'm living with two iPhones.
So iPhone,
Android.
Okay. So we got the whole, everything represented here.
And I always think it's me that I'm the problem. So you get in a car and my phone won't connect.
We're always the problem. You're never
I just assume it's me.
Yeah.
So I take my phone out of the car. I take the car out of my phone. I turn my phone on. I go through this whole process outside the gate. I just assume I don't know how to do something.
It's funny when you see people pulling out of here outside the gate. They do this like dance, like the car stops, the door opens, they get out, the car goes on and off, they get in and out of the car.
Now, and I will concede that we have an unusual circumstance because we're in so many cars, and I know people here have different modes at which they operate. The only cars that are on my own personal phone's Bluetooth list are the cars that are actively in test, because those are the cars I spend most of my time in. Once a car goes out in the fleet, I delete those. So I only have 6 to maybe 9 cars sort of set up for Bluetooth at any given time. But I know there's people that have like 50 cars. Cars that are
you can just scroll and gone.
I've still got a Fisker Ocean on mine.
So that's not me.
That,
so I keep
maybe
that
it's
list small. But maybe that's wrong because I do have connectivity trouble in certain cars, particularly Toyota.
But if you have trouble and I have trouble,
and I have trouble,
and you have trouble, and everyone who writes about it in our logbooks have trouble, I don't think we are the problem.
No, correct. But in the moment, I always think it's me. Yeah. And I also feel like if it was my own personal vehicle, I would use a wired connection.
Yeah,
I would have the cable. It's the right cable. But some cars have USB-C, some have A. I just never have the right cable, or I leave it in a car.
Or you have to think about the fact that if you plug in your phone, now it's going to be charging. Correct. And if you're like me and you don't want your phone to charge to 100% because it's bad for the battery, or it's just going to get it hot, then I don't want to actually plug it in, but I want the stable connection.
Correct.
Or that cord, you're pulling it in and out of the thing, you're twisting it, it's sitting in the hot car, it's sitting in the cold car, and all of a sudden one day it just stops working because modern phones have so much more data that they
do. I mean, I'm on the always be charging camp, the ABC camp.
Same here.
But that's just sort of how that goes, I guess, at least for me. But we have wireless charging. That gets the phone hot in a lot of cars as well. There's very few cars that have a good wireless charger.
Yeah.
So,
or it slides off.
And again, it depends on the case and things like that. So I don't think things are necessarily worse. I just think we're relying on it more. It used to be more frequently like connecting your phone was almost a chore. And like, I'm just taking this car home and back. Like, I'm not going to connect my phone. I'll listen to the radio. But now it's because we use it for so many things. And, I get a lot of calls. Someone's like, hey, I have a problem with this car, that kind of thing. So on my commute, like I want to be able to answer the phone and not have to actually pick up my phone and do things like that. So I think we all rely on it more. So it seems like we're having more problems because we're really utilizing that, like taking a Google Meet from the car, that kind of a thing. It just comes up through the system and you can mute and unmute. And it's the same as talking on the phone, which on one hand is really great. And it's neat that we can do that. But it does complicate things.
They're also putting so much into the systems now. It's not just phone, media, and navigation. Now you can have games, which Typically, you can't do it while you're driving,
yes.
but there's that capability, and there's a bunch of different navigation apps. Trying to think. There's just so much going on. And, Spotify.
Yeah, any music streaming thing.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I really like about CarPlay or Android Auto, and again, it just depends on whatever phone I have, is that it's very simple. I kind of have the 3 tiles or 4 tiles on the side of just the stuff I want, which is I want to be able to have the car read me a text or speak a text back, want some sort of music streaming, and I want some sort of navigation app.
Yep.
Even if I'm not following the directions, I'm a Waze person, so I run Waze just for the alerts, right? If I don't put a destination that says there's debris on the road, I kind of want to know that.
Yeah.
I don't love Waze's directions, though. I actually prefer Google Maps, and I know Google now owns Waze, but I run them side by side, and I still prefer Google, but you can run that in the background. You put your destination to Google, but you have Waze up on the screen.
I do the opposite. I do Waze on the screen, and then I have, and then I have Google Maps.
In the background. That's how I run. Yeah. So I run my directions on Google, but I have Waze on the screen.
Mine's the opposite.
Okay. So, but either way.
But both
it's
cool
cool
are
that
up
you can do that, right?
simultaneously. Yeah.
So running 2 different navigations, I mean, I can see where that's overwhelming and you could get confused and all that kind of stuff. I just happen to like it because a lot of times I've searched my destination on Google ahead of time, like this is where I'm going.
Yeah.
And it's there, it's in the history, but I still prefer Waze on the screen. So I realize I'm maybe a little different, but clearly not because you're also running 2 as well.
It sounds like, there's just not one thing that works for everyone.
Correct.
Right.
But I think the native systems, they're busy. You have all the other settings and stuff that are in there. You're looking for things where in Android Auto or CarPlay, you just have like the 3 or 4 tiles on the side.
Yeah.
And you can just bounce back and forth very easily to the things you use the most.
Yeah.
That's what I like about it.
I think that maybe the designers of these systems aren't, I don't know. They're not given the same resources perhaps as other areas of the vehicle.
Sure.
Maybe they're, I don't know. Because they can be like so confusing and they bury different settings. Like if you just want to mute, sometimes you have to go into like a completely different settings menu. Or if you accidentally like cancel your route and you want to restart it, you have to search for the whole thing over again.
North up is the one that always gets me. When
Really?
somehow someone's put the card, there's some psychopath in this building who sets the maps to north up, and I'm going to find them.
I bet you they're an engineer.
Oh, it's nuts. I don't even know how your brain could even work that way. You should be studied if you use north up. Anyhow, I get in the car and it's north up and I don't know where I'm going. It's showing me driving this way, but I'm driving this way and I'm not smart enough to be able to comprehend that. And I'm not trying to do an IQ
I could be
test.
guilty of that, but
really?
No, I mean, I could be. I can live with it. It doesn't bother me as much, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So trying to figure out things like that. And you're already on the road. You're already on Route 2. What are you going to do? Get off the highway and sit and it's these sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like theoretically, you would know how to use this, but bad design doesn't eventually become good design. Right?
Yes.
It's always going to take a few steps to do that when it should just be one step.
And this is your world. This
Yeah.
is what you study. This is what you evaluate. What makes what are some of the things, if someone's like buying a car, what are the things that they should look for in that system, whether it's native, whether it's bring your own, what should they be looking for?
Well, I would think about what's important to you. So it's going to be, aside from all the safety features and driving related features like turn signals and headlights, if you are someone who you always use the native system, then you're going to want to make sure that it's easily accessible, that it has large buttons, that the process of searching for something is simple for you. And if that involves being able to create a lot of favorites, that's great. If you like to use voice, maybe you get a system that has more natural language processing. But at the end of the day, you want to be able to tap on large buttons with large icons with text or labels that make sense. And that'll make it way easier. And anything that you do all the time should be on like the surface level. So even being able to customize what features are there, or maybe pull out like drive home as a favorites onto your main page, that could be really helpful too. So it's just what's important to you, and then big buttons, large text, large icons, and easy to understand.
One thing I've noticed that I really like that I've seen in more modern cars, it used to be really hard to switch between the radio and CarPlay, Android Auto.
Yes.
And now they're starting, or even you'd have to go to like an icon that had the name of the automaker, and then it would pull up this totally different screen. And now they're starting to integrate those. Porsche was kind of the first to do it. Now I saw it in the Lexus. Car manufacturers are starting to do this a little better. And that's something that's gotten better over the years.
Yeah, it's interesting. With some vehicles, you can choose Android Auto as a media source. So it doesn't switch you to Android Auto, but it plays that music through it. So you're still in your home, your native system home screen, but you have easy access to Android Auto. So that if you want to have waves going on in the background, you still can't do that. Your phone is still connected to the vehicle.
It's a lot of players who have to play nice with each other.
Yeah.
Which is why I think there is that. I think, I see why GM would want you in their walled garden. It also means that there's more information they can take from you. And we know, we've seen, there's been some investigations about, settings that might look innocuous privacy-wise, that if you leave it on, suddenly your insurance rates go up. Suddenly someone knows, the automakers might say, hey,
data transmission from the car.
We don't sell your data, but some of our partners may have access to it. And if you turn some of those features off, if you turn some of the sharing off, you lose access to features.
You do.
Yeah, you can lose access to your level 2 like lane centering and adaptive cruise control if you turn off some privacy settings in a certain vehicle.
And that's just like sensors.
Yeah.
There's nothing there that needs to have some connection and shared information.
I mean, they're supposed to be using like HD mapping data, but that's something that is like downloaded into the vehicle. And so there's no reason apart from, I think, just being able to analyze when people are using what at the OEM level.
Yeah.
But yeah, you shouldn't have to transmit your data out of the vehicle in order to use those systems.
I get a little, so a lot of cars now have a native Google-based system, and they can connect to, if you're in the Googleverse, if you have a Gmail account, you can log in with your Gmail account, and the car will when you get into it, it'll prime you and say, oh, there's a doctor's appointment at 4:30, and here's how long it'll take. And when I first look at that, I think, oh, that's cool. And then I think about it for about 10 seconds, and I say, I don't want like Volvo or GM or who, or knowing, I don't know why, but I don't want that.
Yeah. I mean, I totally get it. It's your private information that you're already giving to Google or whatever. Yeah, you're giving it to Google. And now it's like, well, am I forced to give Volvo this information about my medical health in order to just drive my car?
You haven't had your teeth cleaned in a while, Keith, I see. It's time for, So, I mean, I know, again, you lose some features, but I know something we've done here. We make separate accounts.
Yeah.
Your car gets its own email.
Yeah, we have a couple of different accounts that we manage, and it's purely just so from a functionality standpoint. If I need to log in, and then Keith, you need to log in, and then Matt needs to log in, we want to know that we're using the same account, the same password. If someone does have to update a password, we have a place that we update that, so everyone still has access. And so when we get in the cars, most of them say like a CR or welcome CR. Some of them, you can't do like the company name. So actually my boss, John, his name is on a lot of the cars.
Yeah.
So we get in the car and it says, welcome, John, that kind of a thing. And my parents recently got a Kia. And I did most of the deal, but then I finally sent them to go do the paperwork. And I said to them, and I wasn't totally clear, I'm like, don't set up the app. Because in my mind, don't set it up. I'll set it up when you bring the car home, which is what we do always when we buy a car. I want to be in control of setting this up because I'm going to make a specific email address. It's going to be like Mike's parents Kia at gmail.com. That's not
get
it.
To use their own names.
But, don't go emailing because someone might have that. But I wanted to set up just an email that was dedicated for the car.
Yeah.
That way my email is not getting spammed. Their email doesn't get spammed. And we are in control of it. And they took it as we're not going to set it up. And salespeople want you to set this up because this gets counted at the dealer level.
They need their 10
to do this.
Yeah.
So the salesperson was like, well, that's okay. I'll set it up for you. I have an email address. So now there's some random email address associated with my parents' Kia. But because I don't have actually access to the email address, it's difficult to make that change. There's a way to do it. It just takes time. So, we set these cars up. It takes time. And then when you sell the car, you need to get the car out of the account, and there's all this kind of stuff too, because you don't want to sell a car that now Keith is driving and all of his places are now like associated with you, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of layers and steps to this and a lot of doing to make this happen. Never mind that we're doing it with like 75 cars at any given point, but just on an individual basis. I mean, I'm an expert in this stuff, and I just didn't communicate it well enough to my parents. And now there's some random sales guy's email in their Kia.
We've had some
fix that.
interesting stuff happen here. You know, occasionally bad things happen to cars in our fleet, and there was one a few years ago that through no fault of ours was damaged enough that it went away. And that car, the parts went away to a different country.
This happened several times. Or the whole car goes.
Yeah, the whole car went, and it was a totaled vehicle. And all of a sudden, one day on that CR phone, a ping came up that said, you know, I think one of them was registered. It was getting an oil change in Bratislava, and the car was, for whatever reason, it was able to.
It's still in the app. You still whoever has that has connectivity to it, you can lock and unlock.
Yeah, I have a story.
So I mean, I've seen this, and it's a scary thing.
Yeah. So we sold a vehicle probably at least over a year ago, and I didn't realize it, but I still had it connected, or I still had it on my Bluetooth list. And I went to like the store the other day, and I look at my phone because my music stopped playing, and it had connected to the car that we had sold. So
really,
yes, yeah.
So it got sold locally, and someone is hearing your.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I immediately deleted it, but I was also very curious. I would be like, who bought the car?
You could call them. You can just, if you can hear this, you're driving my old whatever.
Yeah. And that goes with when you do sell a car, there's certain precautions to take.
Yeah.
And
same with if you're renting a car too.
Correct.
If you're using a rental car and you plug in and I
use native everything in the rental car.
Yeah.
I try not to plug my phone in.
Oh, I was going to say I would immediately plug my phone in like wired connectivity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would just be my preference.
I just try to use everything in the car. Don't even connect my phone at all. Just live with FM for the week.
It's really annoying like with vehicles that do have Google, and if you don't log in, then you can't save your work, your home, any sort of favorites, which you're used to being able to do, at least like if you go to like Google Maps. But in your car, it's not going to let you. So every single time you have to go to your recent destinations or just type it in again.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important when you do sell the car, because you have these favorites saved.
Yeah.
You don't want this person who now bought the car, knows where you live, where you work, all those kinds of things. I never even put in my home address. There's a restaurant like a mile from my house that I literally just put the restaurant in, and because when I'm that close, I can get home. I can make it a mile without nav. But so we actually have a process now of how we deal with all these accounts in the cars. We do a factory reset on all the cars before they go. The way we get them out of the account, sometimes it's very easy. Toyota is like 2 clicks in the app and the car is gone. Reset the car, it's done. Some you have to call.
Yeah.
Some when you call, you actually end up talking to SiriusXM, is the company that's administering this for its Stellantis products.
Yep.
Wow.
I'll just say it. So you end up talking to SiriusXM to just tell them that you've sold your Jeep or whatever it is. We just did it with a Jeep actually.
Wow.
I had to call them. So, that car must have sort of been before, we sort of put some of these processes in place because we started to realize that, yes, we need to do these things.
This can happen,
and, I opened an app once and I was able to see a car. One was up in Boston and there was another one in another country. And I could see how much fuel was in it, all these things. I could unlock it. And it's kind of scary. So, delete those cars out. And so when people sell cars, delete them.
We don't have to
everything.
spell out the ways that could be a problem. Yeah. So it's an interesting world that we are in. If you have any questions about this, because this is something that we live with and we experience this on different cars all the time, send it to talkingcars@icloud.com. If you have a question about your car, about setting something up, about why dealers do that the way they do, about any stuff like that. And we've got some real user interface telematics, ADAS experts here that can answer those questions for you. So although I will say there is one thing you can multitask, and that is if you're watching us on YouTube, there is a way that you can donate to us. So you'll notice that we haven't talked about like mattresses or like different like
supplements or anything like that.
Exactly. I don't have like a can here of something that I'm trying to tell you that you should buy, and we buy it too. In fact, if you pick up the print magazine, you won't see any ads for cars or anything. If you go to cr.org, you also won't see ads. You'll see ads for us because we like us and we like talking about us. But that's because we're a nonprofit. And, we don't have that influence from advertisers. We take donations, and you can help keep, us talking cars with, just a couple of dollars a day can keep Mike out under the hoods of the cars in our garage and feeding them with the oil and electricity and gas that they need. So we thank you to everyone who's already donated, and just, that's who we are. It's a special place. Thanks for talking cars with us. We'll talk again soon.